have a problem. Every time something claims to solve VR locomotion, I have to try it. That's how I ended up with this, and now these. Except that instead of $1,000+ this one's actually $86. And it claims I can actually run through VR with it. Both the good news and the bad news is that it's telling the truth, and over the next few minutes, we're gonna talk about it. I'm MartydudeVR, and I've been using different accessories and stuff like that for VR locomotion for years. I'm from VR treadmills to anything you can think of to move around in VR, I've done it. So I do know a little bit of what I'm talking about when it comes to moving around in VR. Before we get into the video, guys, quick disclosure, JPTI, the company behind the Foottroller, sponsored this video by sending me this product. They did not get any say in what I'm about to tell you, no script approval, no early viewing, absolutely Nathan. All right, let's get into it. So what exactly is this thing? The Foottroller Crampon is a sensor plate that strap over your own shoes. So kind of like ice crampons, hence the name. And quick aside, I actually never knew what these were called, so the more you know. Each one has two things going on: contact sensors that detect where your foot is touching the ground, and a built-in IMU, an inertial sensor, that tracks the actual angle of your foot in real time. That combo goes to a small control box, and the control box connects to your PC or your VR headset as a regular Bluetooth gamepad. The IMU honestly is the underrated part here. It's not just detecting foot tilted yes or no, it actually reads how far you tilted your foot, and that angle drives your movement speed. If you lean a little bit, you move slower, and if you lean a lot more, you're gonna be moving at damn near full speed. This is not a tracker. It's not doing anything fancy with Steam VR skeletal input. As far as your computer is concerned, this just reads as a joystick, and that's why it's so cheap. That's why it's $86 instead of $2,000. And spoiler for later is also why the software side gets really, and I mean really complicated. There are actually 4 ways to use this thing, and knowing all 4 matters because they change what kind of product this is for you. Mode 1 is 4-way movement. You press a specific part of your foot and tilt, and it lets you glide in that direction. So you can go forward, backward, left or right, all foot gestures with the IMU tilt angle controlling your speed. Mode 2 adds walk or run in place on top of that. So you physically step and your steps become movement with your foot cadence controlling how fast you go. Shorter, quicker steps means you move faster, and it layers gestures on top, so you can be mid-stride and still trigger controls with foot presses, without stopping. Mode 3 is dev mode, and if you're not a developer, this one's still useful. It exposes the raw data, every axis, every button, which makes it a great diagnostic tool. And I use it a lot because I had a lot of issues getting everything connected. When something isn't working in the game, this is basically how you figure out whether the problem is the hardware or the binding. And spoiler, is more than likely the binding. And the 4th mode that I honestly did not use is the pedal mode, which honestly surprised me because the tilt sensors become analog pedals, aka a throttle and brake, for racing games and flight sims on flat PC. I mean, you can use it for, VR flight sim also, but honestly, it'll be great for like Forza or something like that. So this really does act as a very budget pedal set. Now the price. The Crampon kit is $85.99, and that includes the control box. But heads up, that is not the full price you will actually be paying. The shoes do not come with its own power, so you need 2 small power banks, 1 per leg, plus leg straps to hold everything together. JPTI at least tells you which power banks to buy, so it's not bad. There's no real guesswork there, which is kind of nice because you don't want to get the wrong ones. It might be too much. So you get the decently sized power bank, and I'm glad they let you know that. And to be honest with you, it's very cheap to get the power banks and the leg straps. All right, let's talk setup, because this is where you really need to listen if you're thinking about buying one of these. On the standalone side, aka Quest users, it's pretty painless. The thing pairs as a Bluetooth gamepad. Any game that supports it, you basically can use it. So like when I tried this out at AWE, I tried the standalone version of Behemoth, I think, and it ran really good. Very seamless, no problems whatsoever. You copy a jar folder into your Steam VR install, run a hub app on your desktop, and then comes the part that ate most of my time really testing this thing out, and that is bindings. Because it shows up as a controller in Steam VR, you can't just open Steam VR's normal binding UI and map things like you would do with like the Omni One. Every game needs its own JSON binding file that lives in the jar folder itself, and so you're basically editing config files in Notepad, whatever app you have, in 2026. The keybind system here did confuse me for a while. So if you're the kind of person who eyes just like glaze over when someone says edit this JSON file, then I kind of need you to know what you're signing up for. Now, JPTI does ship pre-configured bindings for a list of popular games. So No Man's Sky, Half-Life Alyx, Arizona Sunshine, VR Chat, and a few other games. I did try building my own bindings for games outside of that list, but it only really worked for Contractors VR, and it took a little bit of AI usage to kind of get that one correct. I think most people are just going to use the pre-configured ones, but I think honestly, if this does get a community around it, I think there will be more profiles being built, and it'll just be a lot easier to support more games. It's doable, but just not fun. I even vibe coded a little GUI to see if I could get something working, and I actually looked pretty decent in Python, wasn't amazing, but it did work. And if you guys want that, if you guys do buy this, I will put that maybe on GitHub if people ask for it. I'm actually putting together a full setup and binding tutorial as a separate video because the official instructions are confusing as hell. And I got you guys, don't worry. Because I genuinely don't want that to be the reason that a pretty cool product sits in somebody's drawer and doesn't get used. And when that's live, I will make sure I link it to this video. Next, let's talk about the hardware itself because I do have some honest notes there too. First of all, the fit. These strap over your shoes, and here's the honest truth. The bigger and chunkier your shoe is, the worse this gets. On anything with real bulk, the strap fights you really bad. The plates don't sit in the right spot, and then sometimes the wires that run from the sensor plates take stress that they really can't handle. I actually snapped the wire on my first left crampon really early on, and shout out to Tony from JPTI. He actually sent me a replacement with no drama, and they actually do advertise 2 years of free service in the US, so you covered there just in case it breaks, but yeah. So I genuinely decided to wear them with the thinnest shoes I own, specifically to keep the stress off the wiring, and that tells you something about how much you kind of have to baby these. That brings me to a recommendation I didn't really expect to make. So JPTI also sells a fully assembled version, which is a little bit more expensive, and the sensors are actually built into an actual pair of shoes that will fit most of you. And honestly, if I were buying these today, that would be the ones I would point you guys at. It costs more, but you skip the strap fitment lottery entirely, and the wiring isn't flexing over whatever footwear you happen to own. Everything sits where it needs to, and honestly, this is like a better experience than the crampon, to be honest with you. But I will say the crampon version does make sense if you already have thin, flat shoes and want the cheapest way into the ecosystem. But if you don't, the assembled unit is the smarter buy to me personally. Second is contact detection. Out of the box, the sensors were a little flaky about registering my foot presses. And speaking of floors, your floors definitely matter. These do not get along with tall carpet. The sensors need firm, consistent contact with the ground, and plush carpet basically eats away all your foot presses. Short carpet worked fine for me. I actually did get a little mat to kind of step on. You'll see it in the video. But the best thing you can do for these type of shoes is get hardwood. If your VR space is a fluffy rug situation, either plan to move or throw a board or a mat down to add a nice amount of, hardness to the floor. On a more positive note though, battery is really no complaints there. The recommended power banks ran full sessions without dying on me once. These take little to no power, and it's actually pretty nice because you can just put them down, pick them up next session, and then you're good. So the hardware pattern is clever, it works, it's cool. Treat it gently and it works. Treat it like gym equipment, and you might be emailing support, to be honest. So how does it actually feel to play games with these? Tested this across a few games: No Man's Sky, Half-Life Alyx, Arizona Sunshine Remake, Arizona Sunshine 2, Contractors VR, and Resident Evil 4 VR using the UEVR mod. Now, 4 of those games end up working the way they're supposed to, but No Man's Sky and Contractors honestly were the best feeling to me. And all those games ended up working, but the only one that did not work was RE4 VR. Now, there is a caveat with it being UEVR, but that's an unofficial setup fighting the unofficial binding. So there's definitely a layer of extraction there. And so I don't know how to get it to work. And so that's something that Tony from JPTI is figuring out right now. And by the time this video comes out, hopefully I'll have an answer for that for you guys. And it's kind of sucks because this would be so perfect for UEVR games, but there has to be kind of some figuring out on the software side to make that happen. So I would tell you guys, set your expectations. On the supported list, pretty good experience. Off the list, it can be a coin flip. Now let's talk about the reason you actually clicked this video, which is running in place. This is the most immersive thing the Foottroller does to me, and it's the real deal once you get it working. You physically step, your cadence controls your speed, quick short steps, and you're sprinting through the game. And you can also adjust the sensitivity to make it easier to sprint, and it layers gestures on top, so you can trigger controls mid-stride without breaking your run, which is cool. Two things you need to know first though. One, there's a real learning curve. This isn't the type of thing you're gonna pick up and learn within an hour. It's gonna take some time to really get used to it. Give it a session or two before you judge it. Two, once you've got it, it is a workout. Not like cardio, marketing speak, but actually running through No Man's Sky with my own legs had me getting tired really fast. If part of your goal is to sweat with the, running in place feature, this delivers for sure. What I do like though is that when your legs, eventually do give out, there is the tilt mode and you can just hold your foot and still keep going. And honestly, it kind of feels like a hoverboard at certain times. And I mean that as a compliment and a warning. Gliding across, No Man's Sky planet by leaning my foot is legitimately cool and way more engaging, to be honest, than a thumbstick. And my stomach handled it pretty fine. But stopping and transitioning to a backward or even side movement can be really hit or miss. There's a specific foot gesture to stop, and when you fumble it, sometimes you'll keep drifting, which is funny, in the open world, but it can be disastrous in like a shooter. This is not a precision movement device without practice. In Contractors, I was very aware that a thumbstick player would probably outposition me 9 times out of 10. So the honest pattern here is run in place for immersion exercise, tilt mode for chill sessions, and then maybe switching the thumbstick here and there while using it to kind of actually get the win. So here's where I land. The Foottroller Crampon is cool tech at a genuinely fair price. Just held back by a software experience that I think just expects a little bit too much as of right now. I do think this has a very high ceiling of potential, and I love to see it as it just gets better over time. The idea works. It genuinely works. It generally is pretty fun when it's used correctly. And honestly, 4 out of my 5 games worked. But the process of getting there was a little stressful. My legs did get destroyed in the best way, and under $100 for the kit, plus 2 years of free service, there's some value there. You guys are always asking me for cheaper locomotion options, and I think this could be one of them. The binding system needs a graphical interface, the instructions can be confusing, but I can help with one of those 2 things, and maybe 2, we'll see. A lot of the things I did deal with while, reviewing this weren't really deal breakers for me. Is it plug and play? In some aspects, yeah. I mean, if you buy it, set it up, there are games that you can play without having to edit JSON files. But if you're a tinkerer and the phrase edit the JSON makes you curious instead of tired, I say buy it and you'll have a blast. And my tutorial will save you the worst of the learning curve. And honestly, if you do buy it, consider the fully assembled shoe, like I said earlier, instead of the crampons, just to kind of save yourself some pain if you don't have the right footwear. If you want something that just works out of the box, the hardware is ready. It is the software needs 1 more, maybe 2 more laps. Store link is in the description and in the comments below if you want to check it out, along with the tutorial video once it's up. If you want to see how this stacks against the Omni One and the Kat Walk in more depth, then maybe I can, do a comparison video of all the locomotion options. It's been with MartydudeVR, and remember, I'm just a dude with a VR headset. Peace.